participants. We are waiting for others to join, and we'll wait for another 5 minutes, and then we'll start. Very good afternoon, all the participants. This webinar is being held today on a very important topic, that is becoming an entrepreneur, A to Z of starting a startup. Basically A to Z of building a startup. So why this topic is very significant is because of the fact that many of us want to be entrepreneur, but we don't know the correct way. We don't know the correct path where we should proceed and where we should land. So this is very important for us to know the basic aspects and all the details associated with building a startup, right from ideation, right from building an idea, valuation of idea, till commercialization. So it is significant for us to note that because of this particular reason, we are holding this webinar today. And not only today, it will be a series of webinars wherein we will bring in personalities, eminent personalities and industry experts who will explain of the nitty building from ideation, commercialization stage. So here we have amongst us very eminent personality, eminent and very prominent person from Assam, not only from Assam, from entire India, we can say we're very proud of him, Dr. Pransa. So he all the training and he will be the webinar as well as tomorrow. So I hand over, I also produce our CEO, organizing this webinar. Downtown Venture actually the Entrepreneurship Technology Business Incubation Cell of Assam Downtown University. So I would like to welcome Kamruddin Ahmed sir, the CEO of Downtown Venture, and he explain you the significance and we are in this webinar. I hand over to Kamruddin Ahmed.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. And good afternoon, Pranjal. Welcome to this webinar. This is a very peculiar time. Earlier, we used to have seminars and workshops and other issues. Now, because of the current situation prevailing, not only here but over the entire world, we have got this new communication mode called webinar, where we have to interact with each other. Now, personally speaking, I am not very familiar with this form because we do not have a touch with each other. But unfortunately, this becomes normal or in the current situation, and so we have to continue with this form. Now, see, as my colleague Pranjal, now our speaker is also Mr. Pranjal Pukon, and my colleague is also Pranjal this side. Both Pranjals are with me. Downtown Venture Lab happens to be a part of Downtown University, where we support incubation facilities to entrepreneurs who take up this technology-based entrepreneurship. Now, you see, we are implementing a program on behalf of the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, called AdtU. And under this scheme, we provide physical awareness, physical as well as financial support to startups which qualify for our support. Now, see, this program started in 2019, end of 2019, but as you know, by the time we build up the ecosystem, there was this pandemic, and so we could not go as per the speed which was supposed to have taken up for carrying out this program. But however, we didn't give up, and we kept on supporting entrepreneurs who had some ideas, good ideas to implement. We have been calling proposals on and off, but we have seen one thing, that the proposals are not complete in all forms. So you see, whenever we talk about entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial activity, or for that matter, startups, it starts with a vision, then you bring it to a mission, then you further bring it down to certain tasks. It could be physical, financial, and marketing, everything taken together. Now, three important things which are very pertinent to this topic is technology, market, and finance. Now, see, these three inputs are very important to carry out any activity, be it small entrepreneurship or startup. Now, startup for that matter is more important because it is a unique idea or service, and which needs to be promoted on a very vigorous scale to convince the promoters, to convince the financial institutions that your project is uh, uh, qualified, your project is capable of delivering. Now, under this scheme, we have various sectors like healthcare, education, agriculture, financial inclusion, infrastructure, environment, all these issues. Now, whoever wants to take up any of the sectors will have to come up with a good idea or a prototype which needs to be fine tuned as per the inputs given, uh, required to be given, and then accordingly we'll have to pitch. Very shortly, we will be announcing another round of pitching where we will provide financial assistance of two types. One is called entrepreneurship in residence EIR, which will be of 4 lakhs, and the second one will be of a grant of 7 lakhs. Now, all these projects, before we advertise, before we ask you to give, we wanted you to get acquainted with the various aspects of the startups. When you will understand that when you pitch for a proposal on a proposal, what are the various things you have to include in your proposal. As I said earlier, that most of the proposals we find a little bit half-baked. Either if they talk about the market, they do not talk about the finance. If they talk about the finance, they talk about the market. If they talk about the market, not talk about the competitors, all these issues. So that's why I use the word unique. Why your product is unique. I've seen a lot of things like they come up with aggregation of services. Like someone says, I'll sell medicine online. The point is that why online services or medicine services are already there. But you will have to prove yourself that why your service is different from others, why you are unique. So these are some of the aspects you will have to uh, consider very seriously before pitching. Now, today, Mr. Pranjal Fukon will take up the different topics in a short form and analyze and tell you very clearly, lucidly, how these things are important and why each and everything should be important. Because it's like a building where if you do not have one wall, the building will collapse. So you will have to take care of all the issues which he is supposed to talk today and tomorrow also. But I'll suggest that since I have seen that people, whenever they are pitching, their main requirement is finance. They only talk about finance. So I'll request Mr. Fukon that kindly keep finance for tomorrow. And in fact, in the third week of this month, I propose to bring someone from IIM Calcutta also, particularly to deal with finance. This time, Mr. Fukon will deal with certain schemes which are available from Government of India, so that you are aware that these are the various schemes which are available. Now, you see, one thing you will have to be very careful that for startups, generally the sources of funds are very limited. In case of small scale industries, or for that matter, any other industry, commercial banks are there to give some funds under some scheme. But in case of startups, since these are special projects, unique projects, banks generally do not come out to give finance. And for that matter, we are an incubator. We provide some funds. That way, Government of India has got some other departments who will provide some funds. But the point is, you will have to start with a shoestring budget. You will have to start with bootstrapping. You will have to start a model. Then, based on the model, if it is found to be viable, you will be given further fund. But you must remember, in Northeast, we do not have access to a lot of means of capital like venture capital, seed funding, etc., etc. So, project has to be very, very secure and very, very solid to qualify for funding. So with this, I would request Mr. Dr. Pranjal Fukan now to take up the issues of startup, and in his own way, he is quite experienced in the line. He has been talking every second day to different target groups. I will request you to give due attention, and then let me tell you frankly, it is like we have been calling proposals, but no doubt we are getting proposals, but the people are only, our participants are only bothered about finance, but they have to be very, very knowledgeable about the project itself, about the various aspects of the projects. And that is why I said, if Muhammad cannot go to the mountain, mountain will come to the Muhammad. So we are going to you to give you various ideas about the project formulation, about project detailing, about financing norm, and then based on that, next time when we call for funding runs, we hope that you will come out with better proposals, inclusive proposals, where it will be easier for us to uh, shortlist the candidates based on their projects. With this, I pass on to Dr. Fukan, Dr. Pranjal Fukan, to carry on his lectures. Thank you.
Yeah, very good morning, and I'm thankful to Kamaldu sir for giving me this opportunity. We are discussing a lot about this every day, most of the time, and I'm also thankful to all the participants who are participating. The subject is huge. It needs a very practical insights. So I have made my PPT in such a way so that it is easy for all of you to understand in two parts, part one and part two. And as Kamadin sir has said, I have kept the pitching idea, deck pitching, for next session, like part two tomorrow. Today I'll only be discussing how a startup can start and what are the special financial provisions made for startups under Government of India schemes. So without wasting much of time, let me share my this is my screen. Hope it is visible.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it is about all like A to Z of starting with quotation from Dr. APJ Kalam. To succeed in life, the results, you must understand the three important mind forces. That you should have the desire, you should have belief, and you should have the expectation. So without these mighty forces, no one can succeed. I'm not speaking only of the startup, but everyone, for every individual field, whether it be professional field, social field, or in case of his family. So these things should be there: desire, belief, and expectations. In the second slide, our Honorable Dr. APJ Kalam sir has said, never give up your dreams, no matter how old you are, no matter where you are today. Do not give up for a better tomorrow. So there is no time, no age for starting a startup. So you can start up anytime. So do not give up your dreams. You should carry on with your dreams. Coming directly to the point, because as I said, I will be speaking not much of theory, but the direct practical insights. So before starting up a startup, there are a few steps everyone should understand. These are the global norms. So everyone is doing this. Every incubation center, every startups, every universities, every industries are following these steps. First is do your market research. Because by conducting market research, the first step is always there to determine if you really do have an idea what pursuing, and also to solve the pain points of the customers, which we also say as problem statements. Second is secure intellectual property. This is a very important point. I am always saying to all targeted groups that please focus on intellectual property rights. Please file patents for whatever design or whatever idea you have for you to solve the pain points of the customers. So always try to secure intellectual property, because through this your funding part is almost 90 to 100% is solved. So you won't have to run here and there. If you have the IP, if you have the patent file, it is very easy to get or secure funding. May it be pre-seed, may it be seed funds. It is very easy because people have confidence on your ideas. Third is decide on branding. How will go for the branding? This also I will touch upon on later stage. I will show you that you have to incorporate your ideas to a commercial form, a commercial entity. You have to choose a leader who can lead you to the right direction, write a business plan. That is also a very important part of it. Pick a workplace and find a mentor. So that is already being said by our respected CEO sir, Kamarudin sir. So these I have just pointed out in bullets. These are the starting steps for any startups before thinking of doing any business. These are the 8 important skills every startup has to follow. They should be proficient in public speaking. It means you need to be able to teach, set, and influence to large, so that at least you can share your message, your ideas, and you get paid handsomely. Third is mindset. You must have to build your mindset and develop a character to become the person who you want to, so that you can achieve your goals. Third is happiness. If you don't know how to be happy, then what is the point of building a successful business and financial life? Fourth is you should have the business mastery, which our colleagues rightly said. You should have the business mastery. If you want to be wealthy, then you should know how to build your business, and that's a very simple thing. Marketing, again, you have to build a business. You need to be great at marketing so that you can attract new leads, new clients. Otherwise, how can you upscale? Regarding leadership, you can't build a successful business and team if you aren't a great leader. So you need to learn how to be a leader, how to be a great leader. And you should have the purpose. You need to know how to find your purpose, and you should also know how to connect it what you love to do. It's your passion. And finally, financial management, because without financial management, without knowing what is finance and how to manage the finance, how can you get rich? So these are the 8 important traits which every startups or would-be startups planning for that should have in themselves. These are the basic documents required for starting any business, be it startup or any small entities under MSME. Basics are you should have the PAN card, you should have Aadhaar, you should have TAN, you should have GST registrations, you should have the company approved by MCA, Minister of Corporate Affairs, and you should have the agreement or deed of the company. So these are the basic documentation required. I will also elaborate it in later slides. Always, as I said, and many were also saying that we should not look after much of these success stories, but we should also celebrate the failure stories. So for this, I started with the challenges. I not started with opportunities. I started with challenges. We should be bold enough to celebrate our failures. So what are the challenges? You should know that in these COVID situations, earlier also, every startups or every new enterprise is to face fierce competitions. There's unrealistic expectation is happening because dynamicity or disruptions happening due to these pandemic situations, the behavior, customer behaviors of purchasing or consumption. Then there's challenge of hiring suitable candidates because of distancing, work from home, and quite movement of suitable candidates into migrations. Then you challenges in partnership decision making. There are challenges in financial management, how to go about it in these dwindling situations. And obviously, we are going for the digital transformation, so there are challenges in cybersecurity. And finally, the winning the trust of customers. That is most important thing, because without winning the trust of customers, which CEOs have already said that through value proposition and unique selling propositions, which I will discuss tomorrow. In that way, you should be in a position to understand that how to win this trust of customers and these are challenges, as I say. There are many opportunities, but in just summarizations, I've just put few of the opportunities which is happening. You are seeing mostly happening in finance area, like setting up of stock market firms, the mutual fund agencies, the society for savings and investments, trader for stock marketing, banking. There are lots of things are happening. You must be getting lots of information through your social media also. The nature area opportunities are like training, because most of the trainings are happening through webinars, it's online, equipments are happening online, and consultancy, and communication centers, counseling for the students, professionals, parents, and psychology services, mentorships not only for the startup, but mentorship for education also, research also, industry professionals also, and then you can have opportunity for educational consultants. In marketing, yeah, we have a lot of opportunities like digital marketing, branding, distribution channel, SEO, like social media marketing channels, optimization modules. We can have the opportunities here. But before that, the most important thing is that for any startup starting a business, also for I'm speaking for the micro enterprises, that you should have a perfect goal. The goal should be very, very clear. The goal is basically your vision. So you go for my organization should be based on the world economy, what is the status situation of the present world economy. You should be always have the attitude for learning, relearning, how to go for the creation of networks, because your goal should be the creation of networks. Your goal should be to market the product, which one you have an ideated, you have prototype, you have patented, and you have now commercialized. And what your company will not be doing, which are the things you should not do. So it is not required that you should do everything. So which are the things you should not do? That's also should be a part of your organization goal. What is your competitor stage? What are the strategies? You should know about it. Your organization structure, your internal control, you should be very clear about it. And you should also have the position to understand that what are the delegation authority you have and responsibility you have placed in your organization to achieve that goal. This is the example of the successful startups. Just have 20 snaps so that you can just again brush up and you can again go for understanding that what are the not the success stories but the failure stories which have made them successful now in the global market. Like you can see the Byju's, which is the most valuable education technology company now. They have started with $1 billion in 2021. Now their valuation stands to $15 billion. So it's a success, but what are the failure stories which they have faced while they're going from $1 billion to $15 billion should be studied by a person or a group of people who are interested for going for any enterprise. Now coming in detail about how to go for setting of an enterprise, because first A to Z means first let me understand, make understand that what are the processes, statutory requirements, regulations which you have to go through as per the law of land for setting of an enterprise. But before that, the concept of owning any enterprise is, as I said, I always like this. It's called ikigai, which is a Japanese concept. It's going for a reason for being. What is the reason behind that you are going for setting up an enterprise? So that is ikigai, which is basically being think of like what you love, then it is depending on 4 parts of the passion, vision, vocation, and professions. So this passion, vision, actually what you love, and vision, vocation is what the world needs. That is the main point because the common sense. Professional vocation is basically what you can be paid for, and your passion and profession mixed to what are you good at. So these things has to be there. Then only you can delight, then you can excite, then you can make people comfortable, and then you can satisfy your customers. But during this process also, if you go through photograph, it's very clearly saying that these 4 factors, what I love, what the world needs from me, what I can be paid for, what I'm good at, these 4 things should be very clearly understood. Then only you can translate the profession of your organization, and that's the concept, core concept. Not me seriously to say that you should have a huge commercial idea, you should take a come up with the idea. That is the most important thing. You'll be asking like how I get the idea, because the war, things such as very fast. So you think about those things which you love. You think about things not only yours, community also. You should empathetic to be human. So you should also think about those things that others are getting at. You should ask other people, others, the problem people if you go, you can also have analyze the research growing markets. You should do research growing, how things are moving, how things are lagging. You should be in a position to think about the performing, how they are lagging, how they are role model new needs, always new things, all things all time. These are basically only how to make that retrofit or retrofitting of these old models to new models with the use of minor use of technology and other things remains the same. But everything is now focused on empathy. So during this process of startup activities nowadays, the things are taken as empathy because due to COVID situations, people are not meeting, cannot meet each other. They are working from the distances. So mostly they are meeting through this technical equipments like I'm discussing with you, sitting far off. So you have to have this empathy part during this ideation process also, which is called design thinking. Is a separate subject. I have not touched design thinking in my A to Z process. Then you should be positioned to find a stagnant market area which is not rising. So why it is stagnant? You should be positioned to research it and can push and improve. You should relate your ideas. You should not wait for the perfection. So nothing is perfect. So you should not wait for perfection because, as I said, nature is also not perfect. So if you wait for the perfection, then nothing will come up. Now, how to start a business? First of all, you have to have an executive summary. That is very standard thing. Everyone knows, and you must have tried also. I don't think that everyone
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can I intervene for a minute, please?
Yes, sir.
This way the session becomes a little bit more interesting when you are talking about ideas.
Yes, sir.
When you are talking about ideas now, under the current situation, what we are facing, whatever we call it, normal life or abnormal life.
Yes, sir.
Can you sort of throw some highlights and what sort of ideas can emerge under this situation for emerging startups? Now, very recently, I saw a young girl somewhere in MP or somewhere. She has come out with a movable toilet. You know,
Yes,
these
yes,
days,
yes, yes.
people, persons who are in ICU and other issues or in home isolation also, they will be very comfortable with that. But the way I salute her, the way she has come out with the idea. She's a young
Yes,
girl.
sir. Yes, sir.
How can we take benefit of the situation, current situation, to come out with innovative ideas? This is something I would like participants to give a little bit deeper thought. You know, that's what
Yes, sir.
my part was that to say.
Okay. Yes, sir. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Now coming to you should have ideas, which I always said in the slide. Now, thing is, it is the idea. So, adjust global standards. Your ideation cannot happen without having minimum 9 problems. Okay. You should have 9 pain points identified. Then only it is being said that your ideation of your generated pinpoints of problem statement can be identified, can be commercialized. Now, in the present situation, this is mostly supporting the medical or healthcare activities, as you see. So, whatever ideations are happening is to support the COVID patients, or to support the hospital infrastructures, or to support the relatives or concerns of the community into which the COVID patients are there. But if you see very close, the ideas are mostly happening, if I say, to a range of 70 to 80 in the digital transformation, digital platform. Means, as I've accustomed to a few startups, so what I've seen, they are mostly into like developing some applications, developing some collaborative applications. So I used to say to those startups that please do not focus much on the problems, because this is the era of digitization. Technology is changing very fast. And obviously your applications, if suppose someone takes or buys, then he is always not in a position to upgrade it. So instead of that, if you have some ideas which can be a mix of digital technologies, or you can say a mix of technologies and mix of the existing processes, like as what sir has said, a portable toilet for those COVID patients. So similarly, if I say an example, if you have a such type of portable market, it's a portable market for those areas in urban area. I'm not saying for rural areas, in urban areas, which are to just control the movement or lessen the movement of people. You can have this portable vegetable vendors or vegetable you can say cart, right, which you're having in Guwahati, like portable fish market, isn't it? Or portable milk bags. So these things are connected to some technology that on a real-time basis, the customers can get the information that this particular van will be coming to my area at this particular time. And if you have booked it, then obviously then that particular van before coming will give you a information on a mobile that that particular van is just reaching in just like 1 minute or in some seconds, so that you can avail this opportunity. The same thing if you see the television advertisements, if you see some big like consider the KFC or something, what they are doing some deliveries with contactless deliveries. How they're doing? Before going to that shop, if you use your applications of theirs and just book it, they will give you a slot and time. At the particular time you reach that particular destination of the KFC or particular outlet, you don't have to enter. You have to just wait out. Someone will be keeping that particular your package at a designated point, and you have to just collect it from that, and you can move out, because every payment will be done through online payment. So that way, actually, you should have a mix of technology and mix of the existing activities. Then only your business can sustain. You cannot just rely 100% on technology, because maybe we are using it now, but after some time, situation may change, and it will be a mix of hybrid of something others. And if people will really find difficult to adopt so many platforms of technology, because the upgradation part is again a cost, not cost effective for them. So this is one part. And thirdly, what I said, the startup should not think of starting a business as a completely as an independent entity, but instead of that, they can start an independent entity, but they should try to collaborate. So as much collaboration if happens among the startups, then this will give a wide demographic area, wide advantage. You can leverage the market better, because some startup is actually maybe proficient, or they maybe have that knowledge of particular demography or particular customer segments. And if you have that, if suppose I have that particular segments with me, some others have the particular segment, so we can collaborate each other, and we can have a wide range of customer segments, wide range of demographics, so we can offer better, maybe using a single app or maybe using a single channel. So that will also. And one thing, if you see very closely, Amazon Web Services, if you see that in 1994 they started only with the selling of books, but presently they have 194 services. So how they are doing? They are doing only through collaborations. Means they are attacking those stagnant markets, not rising markets, the market which are overlooked by competitors, or which are overlooked by others. They have attracted. They have tried to attack those areas which is being overlooked, and they have just collaborated with their services with others, and they are now excel from 1994 to 2021 from 1 to 194. So the pain points, the most important thing for starting a business is your identification of pain points. Minimum 9 pain points has to be there. Out of these 9 pain points, why 9 pain points? Because that will give you a wide clustering of ideas, wide range of clustering of ideas. As many ideas you have, it is better for you also to decide or discuss on the pros and cons. You should not just stick on 1, 2, or 3 problem statements or pain points. Try to make 9 pain points available, and make that only you have clustering of ideas, can discuss through forms, through online, telephones. So least you can understand the main concern which the community or the category of customers. Because this is part of design thing. That's why I say it is empathy. Be empathy. So it cannot be what we should very much keep your eyes and ears open. Others are doing, how competitors are doing, how crazy those areas which we have never thought of. You might have thought that okay, this business or this type of market is so idle for such a long time. So what is there? What is the prospect? No, you should think. Can you just add some values to those markets presently overlooked by either by competitors or by others? So that is the one thing which if your sir allows me that tomorrow I can give some practical how they are leveraging on these 9 points and some successful models are coming up, because that will be part of the pitch decking also, pitch decking strategies also. So based on that, at least it will help you to align how these ideas crop up and how I am pitching for the investors. So going forward, these are some of the compliances, statutory compliances, which cannot be overlooked by any startups while starting an enterprise. So you should be very clear. So there are many types of organization formation or forms of organizations, like it can be private companies. So in this case, if you say proprietorship, the impact is income tax. Partnership from impact is statutory audit should happen. LLP, project intensive scheme, it should be project intensive schemes. And obviously, private and public companies are government. They actually depending mostly on the government orders. Transparency has to be there, and flexibility is there in case of HUF, trust, and AOPs.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Can I please intervene?
Related to company formations.
Hello.
Yes.
Sorry to intervene.
Yes. Yes.
Just with respect to your previous slide, you just mentioned there's a trust which falls under the purview of a startup. But normally, I represent an incubator, BIA, Bihar Industry Association.
No. I'm not saying anything about startup. These are just giving overall view of how.
That's a form of the organization.
The startup doesn't come on. Because the startup doesn't come on the private companies, public companies, or HUF. Actually, startup also doesn't come under proprietorship. Okay.
No.
So it is basically.
So we consider only these three: partnership, LLP, and company private. We consider this right.
First.
Yes. Right.
Because proprietorship firm, if you cannot go for startup, you won't get the scheme funds also.
Correct. Even in case of angel funding and
LLP, NLP, partnership, and private limited.
Right. Thank you. Sorry, please carry on. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes. So these are just important compliances. Like your company should have a name, you should have a profile, website, you should have the knowledge of taxes, their formalities, issues. Your company should be project incentive scheme for CG and SG, like semi government, state governments, and bringing the investment in India outside also is part of the glimpses which I'm giving. And you should be very much your company or your team should have this proficiency in balance sheet, profit and loss accounts, which financial management. That is also part of the compliances. Now, directly coming to step by step. Specifically here for startups. Apart from that, I'm not touching MSME also. So for startup, an organization is called as an entrepreneurs. You should have the commercial entity or establishment, and these are also obtained for conducting new businesses. As I said, sole proprietorship, partnership, LLP, and privately limited company. But for applying for any loans from incubation centers, the startup cannot be sole proprietorship form. So they have to be either second, third, and fourth partnership, LLP, or private limited. These are the important registrations. Like they have to register with PAN, income tax authorities. Now, for 1st April 2021, they have to be Udyam registration, not Udyam Aadhaar, for availing MSME benefits. They have to have open a bank account. They have GST or professional tax registrations in sole proprietorship, they can also they can also go without GST. Then they should have registration with Chamber of Commerce. That means in the local Chamber of Commerce also or national. They should have registered with DGFT, IEC if they are going for export business. They should have registration of Employees Provident Fund organizations. Their number of employees is more than 10. They should register for medical insurance. They should, for the employees with more than 10. They should have this calibration of weights and measures respect of state, if as per requirement, okay, not for all. And they should have these power connections registrations with state electricity boards for running their premises or offices.
Just one query
This
here.
is also a part of the registrations regarding environment and pollution. Yeah.
Just one query. These are either
Yeah, tell me, sir.
either or these are must. All are must for it.
No. These are important. One is no. All are not must. So must is your PAN, your GST. Okay, register with Chamber of Commerce. These are must. And also
Second
must
point.
is if your employees is more than 10, then more EPFO and
It is more important. Is it a single person or you have two different organizations?
These are all different. First, central government, SME, third one is banks maybe any bank, private bank, government bank, GST, state, central government, Chamber of Commerce, depending on you are going to the state, then state chamber. This is not run by the government, the central government, EPFO is central government, medical insurance is also system, calibration of weight, state government, power connections, state government.
Sir, I have a
There is
query.
no one single scope designed by the government for a single window.
I have another
Yeah.
query. With respect to registration with Chamber of Commerce, when startups, some emerging enterprise, the Chambers of Commerce run after startups for their mandatory membership. I have never seen the vice versa. You know, when I was in CII, construction industry, giving the North Orissa Zonal Chapter to head, I used to run after MSME so that they become members. Now, that was a part of our targets. Yes, they used to enjoy some benefits in terms of networking with other chambers, other organizations, larger organizations, their counterparts.
No, the things have changed now because we. Yes. Things have changed now because being a PSU, I'm part of PSU also. We are also because see, being a member of any Chamber of Commerce will help them to understand the frequent changes and notifications issued by the government.
Okay.
Otherwise, how can they get the information? Because if suppose they are dealing with PSU, no issue, then we will give the information. But suppose they are not dealing with any public sector departments or government departments, so they will be always left behind with the information. That better is to be in touch with any Chamber of Commerce. That will be a single mode of contact for those notifications, nothing else for information.
Okay.
Because you have seen, for the last 2 years, lots of notifications are coming on everyday basis.
Yes. Different various government policies,
This is exclusive. Yeah. Every day they are coming. Something new things are coming. Like lately, you must be knowing that there is no responsibility for government tenders, and also that the bank guarantee will reduce from 10% to 3%.
Okay.
So that way, many
we used to provide you.
They might not be knowing if they are not connected.
Correct. We used to tendering opportunities as well.
Yes, we used to provide and
no, we used to. Yes. Our
yes.
members used to participate in the
we know that
tenders.
we are also part of CII, ICC, find all national chambers. Yes. So related to environment and pollution clearances, these are some of the important part of the registration. But for the 17 which I noted here, these are 17 critically polluting sectors. So in all other units, we'll really have to file an application and obtain acknowledgement for usual purpose of consent. So this is the actually method specifically for MSMEs, which has been simplified. That except for the 17, for other areas, they can just file an application and get the acknowledgement. That will serve the purpose. But for 17, these 17 critical areas, they have to get the environment and pollution related clearances from respective pollution control, be it the state department or city department. These are the 17 critical areas which they cannot just open an acknowledgement. They have to properly file the application, get the clearances, then only they can start. For product-specific clearances, why we take product-specific? It is not mandatory for all. It depends on the type of business they are going for setting the enterprise. Suppose for establishing a printing press, then registration can happen at the district level or deputy commissioners at state, district level. For cold storage construction, designated officials are there in state. For pesticides, again, central government or state government department, they can approach under Ministry of Agriculture. Drugs and pharmaceuticals, you should need to have these clearances for the drug license from state drug controllers. Related to safety matches, fireworks, again, the license has to be had from Explosive Act, from Directorate of Explosive Nagpur only. For household electrical appliances, you should have the license for Bureau of Indian Standards. For woodworking industries, within 8 kilometers from the forest, you need to have the clearance from DFOs. And for the milk processing and milk product, you have to have this approval from milk and milk product orders from this is state government food processing departments. So we are the product specific clearances. There are list of clearances, but just put those important and major one which normally people intervene for starting their businesses. Otherwise, it's a huge list of where this registration clearances need to be have. And for this, if you visit the MSME or you can visit the respective district DICCs, they have the list with them. Department of Industries and Commerce. Now for this enterprise setting, this was the links I'm showing for the PAN cards. You need to file the application form 49A. So these are the sites. Any of the sites you can visit and apply for the PAN cards. Now I will written here Udyog Aadhaar, but this will change as Udyog registration, but the website is same. So for Udyog registration, please see the second link. That is udyogregistration.gov.in. There is because from 1st April onwards, the Udyog Aadhaar has been continued. So without Udyog registration, avail the benefits of MSc without participating for any public tendering with the central government bodies, PSUs, anyone. The need for the bank account, obviously respective banks, scheduled banks and RBI. And for GST, this form registration 1, Part A and Part B is available at gst.gov.in. So the sites and the showing for having this links, whether you can apply online nowadays. For registration with EPFO or ESI, this is the registration. We are called registration.shramsuvidha.gov.in. Everything is now made online. So you don't have to move to office to office. And for the professional tax, it depends on the state-wise, depending on the state-to-state rules and regulations. Every state has its own rules and regulations. So for this, you can visit this state government department website, directly state website, official website, where you can get this information. With the Chamber of Commerce, as I said, you can also connect with, like example I'm giving, Indian Chamber, Maharashtra Chamber, DGFT Cogin. So any Chamber of Commerce or ICC, CII, FICCI, many chambers are there. Any of the chambers, if you get registered, and their state local chambers also there, it will benefit in getting the information about the changes happening periodically by the government, by respective state and central governments. And for the export-oriented business, registration of DGFT, IEC, that is import-export certificate. For this, you have to go to this website for applying online and get the confirmation of registration with payment of requisite fees. So these only are taken for this 3-part partnership, LLP, private limited, not the sole proprietorship, because I'm speaking for the startups to get the benefits. For the partnership, you should have the minimum 2 and maximum 20 directors. LLP, there is minimum 2, maximum no limits. Private limited, you can have minimum 2, maximum 200 directors, partners. Liabilities and partnership is unlimited. For LLP, it is limited. Private limited, your liabilities are limited. Government documents in case of partnership is deed. In case of agreement is formal registration from MCA. For private limited, you should have the MOA and AOA formal registration for MOA. So 2 types of documents are required. Regarding capital guidelines, there is no minimum limit specified for partnership. For LLP, there are also no limit. Private limited, minimum is 1 lakh. Audit in case of partnership not required. For LLP, it is mandatory. If your investment is above 55, turnover is below, is over 40 lakhs. And private limited, it is all time mandatory. No selling in case of investment and turnover. This is most important. It should be noted for all startups, because all startups are considered as MSME as per the new definitions. There's no difference between startup and MSME. So for this, they need to, if they go for the registration, it's well and good for startup. For this, they have to visit the site, because this is just some government guidelines. I'm just showing that it is a single window. That is the website. No agency, no person is authorized to this MSME registration or any activity. If any startup is attending any agency or person, is not advised. You should directly go to the website and do this for the single window. And this is classifications, given new definition that any micro whose machinery equipment does not exceed 1 crores, turnover does not exceed 5 crores. In case of small, whose investment in plant and machinery or equipment does not exceed 10 crores, turnover does not exceed 50 crores. And medium enterprises, where the investment in plant and machinery does not exceed 50 crores and turnover does not exceed 250 crores. New definition. So in this case, startup falls under micro. So because it is within 1 crores and turnover within 5 crores. So they can very well register as per the registration for micro. And once scaling from micro, small, and medium, there's no need to change their registration. They have to just scale their as per their turnover. It will be scaled under the same registration, the registration certificate. So there are some of the important points. So for setting up an enterprise, you need to have permanent registration number of registration, and your registration certificate will be issued online, which will consist of a dynamic QR code, which will access the web page on MSME portal, and details will be given about your enterprise. There is no need for renewal if you scale from micro to small to medium. MSME registration is now made fully online, totally free, paperless, and based on self-declaration. No declaration notary is required. No documents approved are required. Only Aadhaar is enough for registration for this registration. PAN and GST link details on investment and turnover of enterprises which are validated from government data. They will automatically validate it once you put up this PAN and GST number. The government online system has been integrated with IT and GSTN system, so you don't need to have to validate it. Having PAN GST is mandatory from 1st of April. Means both the things are required if you are registering post 1st April 2021. And those who are having EM Part 2 or Udyog Aadhaar, Udyog Aadhaar registration or any other registration under MSME, they have to again re-register for getting benefit of MSME under Udyog. And both actually have been, you can say, discontinued. So no more filing more than one Udyog registrations. However, any number of activities, maybe under manufacturing services, can be specified as number of manufacturing services you can specify under one Udyog registration. For any clarification, this is the nodal email given by Ministry of MSME, ua-msme@gov.in. Where any queries can be, you can write it and they will give you a response to any of the queries related to Udyog registrations. Now coming to the most important thing, as CEOs also said, that every startup is first looking after finance, where they will get the finance. But my friendly advice is that you should always start with your own funds. Don't go for the funds first. Start with your own funds. That what CEOs Kamalji sir has rightly said. Bootstrapping funds. You should always utilize your funds first. Validate it. Try to get the customers. Then after their success only, or you should apply for these funding activities, because unnecessary these are liabilities without start of a business. And if you have the patents, obviously there's no need for running here and there, because your fund should be coming like anything. And also you can go for licensing, or you can go for technology transfer incubation centers if you have the patents of your ideas. You can have design patents, you can have product patents, you can have service patents. Here's all the prerequisites of funding. Before funding, you should have the prototype, or you should have this minimum viable product, which we call MPV in incubation terms. Your product should be minimum viable. You should be positioned to You should have this prototype. Then you have to establish the feasibility of idea through proper planning, implementations, because nowadays only ideas are not funded. It should be very clear to everyone that I have that idea, but no one is going to fund it unless and until your idea is patented. But before patenting also, you need to have a prototype. You should have this concept of MPV. And also you have to, you should be in a position to establish that your proof of concept, how your business is going to operate, that you can show in your business canvas model. The 9 pillars are there. So here you can establish, you have to establish a proof of concept of a business. So with this 3 only, you can go for funding, either from government or from private or from angel or anywhere. But these 3 minimum prerequisites has to be there for this startup before going for pitching for fund. Here's some of the ground rules. Firstly, not all our businesses are fundable. So you should be very clear that if I have an idea, I have 9 problem points. If I did it also, I've made a prototype also, but maybe those particular ideas, particular businesses are not fundable. So from investor point of view, you should know. You should actually, everyone should see from the investor's point of view before deciding for setting up for an enterprise, whether it has the potential to scale up and give exponential returns. Otherwise, no one is going to fund you, maybe the government also. Secondly, your funding is not indicator of your success. After getting fund, you should not think that your business is a success now, because many businesses around us have grown without any funds. That's why I'm saying, you should always start your own funds. Look for the Google, look for the Amazon. They have never gone for the funds. They have started from their own, and after success, proof of concept established, they have gone for the funds for scaling purpose. Funding might be a need in some cases, but it is not an absolute necessity. So always remember that the funding is not the absolute necessity to start a business. If you're thinking of funding, then I'm very much sure that your business will not succeed. You will never ever your enterprise will come into picture. So never go for this funding. It is a part of the business. It is not the essential ingredients of the business to start a business. Your business should be self-sustainable. So the business should generate enough revenues and profits to fund the growth, because banks, investors will try to see through the business canvas what is your revenue model. How will you going to have this money to pay my money back? If you cannot show this in your business canvas, if you don't have that concept of business ready, plan ready to get the revenues, then no one will going to, because your idea is not sellable unless and until it has to establish commercially the market. I am to show that there will be 4 reasons of funding only. First and foremost reason for funding is that you're going for scaling up your operations, not starting. You just remember this. I am showing first point of reason for funding just for scaling, not for starting a business. Second, how to establish a competitive advantage over your competitors. Third, how to fund your short-term operational expenses, this working capitals. Fourth, and how to go about for research center. No word for 1, 2, 3, 4 I have shown start of the business. It is only that when your proof of concept is established, you have started the business, you have run the business, you have business operational, how to scale, then you go for fund, how to establish a competitive advantage over competitors, then you should go for funds, or you should go for funds for scaling the business and to maintain your working capital expenses. Finally, R&D for the patenting and trademarking or copywriting, whatever activities you have, so that you can establish your business form. These are some of the forms of funding, like one is called equity investments, one is debt investments, one is convertible bonds, one is called royalty structures. These are 4 basic forms of funding nowadays. You might have been listening to this, or you might have learning about this many times while you are engaging with these funding activities. And detailing is here. So in case of equity investments, what happens? It is the most popular one and most talked about nowadays for startup funding. So these are actually made instead of shares or equity in your startup. These shares give out in either the common stocks or preferred stocks. So it means you are selling some of equity, some part of the equity of business to your investors, which is part of your business with the purchase of equities. So based on that, you can ensure that your business is getting some funds. Your business is getting some support from the other collaborating agencies, so that your management is now strengthened to continue your business. Second one is called debt investment. This is actually would have been repayment timeline is there because and it have also incurs interest rates. So these are basically the form of long-term loans, which will be personal loans, commercial loans, and short-term loans in case of invoice debts and working capital loans. So mostly the working capital loans which with the startup takes for scaling their business or to maintain their working business, they take from the bank as debt investments. So they have a time period, you have to pay the interest plus principal. Third one is royalty based. It's an exciting mode of funding. So instead of funding, you pay the investors a structured royalty. So that is, I'm saying, suppose you have the patent, then you can approach me. I can say I can give this right, your right to use my patent for a specific period of time, and only thing you have to pay me the royalty. That is the royalty-based investments. So you don't have to go to any banks or investors. You just approach the incubation centers or any person who has patented that particular idea to which you are working into. So you don't have to waste much of time. You take that idea with the payment of royalty for a specified period of time. So this type of investment has a limited timeline. They might have variable rates or perpetually dependent the investment agreements, whatever. The startup makes with the incubation centers or startup makes with the individuals who have the patents. The fourth one is convertible bonds, convertible equity. So here the stakeholders have the option to interchange between debt and equity investment. Second one, based on the pre-agreed terms and timelines. They can go for equity, but later on they can convert it to debt. Or if they go for the debt, they can convert to equity. That is based on the commercial terms and agreements to which they have signed up. Here are some of the fundings which are already being said by our respected CEO sir, Kamadin sir. That one is bootstrapping, second is equity sources, third is startup platforms, and fourth is debt sources. In case of bootstrapping, you can have your own investment, which I always say you should always start the bootstrapping. You should always utilize your own investments. You should go with your friends and families for support or crowdfunding. In case of equity, you can go for the angel investors, venture capitalists, private equity. For the startup platforms, you can approach any incubators, incubation centers like Downtown Venture Lab. You can go to accelerators, you can go for grants, government grants. And for the debt sources, there are two things. Either you can go to the banks or any commercial institutions or non-banking finance corporations.
Dr. Fukan, can I just...
So, for options...
Hello, Dr. Fukan.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
With respect to your previous slide, can you tell us when this convertible debentures, this convertible form of funding is applicable and when is it recommended? It's because equity debt we are all aware of, but this convertible debentures or convertible equity, when is it recommended? In which case?
See, in case of debt investment, you only go for the debt investment when your business is operational. Yes, with the banks, okay. And when your business is just about to start with your own funds, but you need money. You need money, like you need some capital funds, you need some capital funds, including working capital. Then you go to the equity investments because it is the easiest way to approach any investors. Okay, not to go with all the formalities. But in case of in case of like time, suppose your business is operating good. Now it is all fine. Then you can think that instead of going for equity, can I go for like I want to close that actual equity with the investors, so I will just convert it to a debt fund, means debt investment, so that after some time he may go out of my business because I have already defined the terms and the interest rates and how much going to pay for that particular invested amount. So that is the way actually we can decide whether you want to continue with that investor as the equity partner, or you want to just convert it to debt and just let it off.
It is about taking ownership of the business, right?
It depends on the structure of business.
It is.
Yes.
You have mentioned it is mutually agreed terms and conditions before the deal is signed, right? That is so. But you know, I would like to share my experience.
Example, I will show you tomorrow that, or maybe today also. I think CDB have a CDB, that is Small Industries Bank of India, has a venture capital fund.
So I would like to share my experience.
So some people think that why to go? Yeah.
Okay. I would like to share my experience in IM. See, we used to used to allow the entrepreneur to go for the convertible debentures when suppose an organization is starting the business, yes, in case of an emerging enterprise, so they go for a debt funding in order to avoid dilution of equity. Later, they feel they cannot repay. So, anticipating that, we could have arranged, we could have made an agreement that you have the option to make it a convertible debenture, the convertible equity system. But from the equity to debt, that is experience.
Yes.
That's something I didn't, I was
No,
not
actually,
aware of. So.
No, this happens with actually this happens with incubation centers. Like how we are performing. Suppose an incubation center has few startups. Okay.
Right.
Now these startups want to commercialize through the incubation center. And that incubation center has an agreement with the startup that we will having a 20% equity base equities with you. Okay.
Right.
So whatever profit comes, 20% you have to give it to us. But after some time, suppose the startup thinks that no, I want to move out of this incubation center. So they can just have an agreement that okay, for some moment of time, I can go with the debt investment part with you, which converting your equity to bonds now. Okay.
Right.
And after that particular period of time, I want to move out of the incubation center. I want to be independent. I don't want to be attached to the incubation centers. Okay. So in that case, they can just convert this. They can convert, or either they can. Sometimes it happens like that. I'm also associated with incubation center with equity partnership, but I'm also associated with some debt investment with some banks. Okay.
Correct.
So after some time, it may happens like you may have two equity partners, one incubation center and banks, because you have converted debt to your equity. This is for the bank.
Yeah, many of the startups take both. Many of the startups take both.
Equity partners with you.
Correct.
Yes.
I just wanted the
best to keep the equity.
I wanted this to be shared with.
Practically, what I'm saying is equity part is better.
Equity part is better because
better for the initial phase.
In case of debt investment, you have to repay. Equity part
is, if you grow up,
to,
scale up,
and you get sometimes you get the advice and the correct inputs from the investors. Input from the investors is very important. The investors participate in your. If he's a good investor, if there is a good investor, then it actually it is helpful to the startup if the investors participate in the decision making process.
Sure.
That is what I feel.
Yes. Investors may have some stake also, but the thing is, I think we'll have 10 minutes of discussion at the end of the session.
Correct.
Dr. Fukan can continue the timing, and all questions can be reserved.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I won't ask. I won't ask in the meantime. Okay.
You are welcome to ask. We will keep it 10 minutes discussion, which will be more interactive. I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Bye.
Now I have to show you that what is the equity-based funding stages for any startups. That equity part, as we are discussing, no. So these should be the stages of equity-based funding for any startups. Like for inception stage, they can have a funding at the inception stage, which basically takes care of validating the business concept, building prototypes, or you can the proof of concept and business configurations and many other things. So this happens in the incubation centers mostly because for this reason the inception stage always we are taking care. But here also you can have the equity-based funding from the incubation centers. Then comes the seed stage. This is the seed stage where you can have this funding maybe from like 50 to 20 times, for which it consists of both the things like validation plus you need to money for building your management team, your product development, your monetizations. Now with this equity funding, you can have a management team of your own plus that equity partner. Then you can go for the equity early stage funding. That is early stage funding mostly is for that you have not yet commercialized. You are just building your management team and development is happening, so that your proof of concept is finalized for and prototype is there, so that you can pitch. But before that also you need some money. So for these three stages are important. One is inception, seed, and early stage. Now once you are growing, the growth stage, you are now expanding, scaling your production, team building, marketing, sales, and all these things. Then you can go for 8 to 10 times of your fund requirements. You can go for the funding purpose. Then the next stage is your expansion stage, where geographical expansion is happening. You are collaborating, you are widening your demographic locations. You're scaling up your operations, like you are also scaling up your varieties of services, maybe supplies also, and you also keeping eye on your economies of scale. Then last is exit part. Why exit part? As I said, exit part is also very important because every startup should have a plan that when they can exit. But without exit plan, it is also difficult because I'm so pitching at strategies. Investor asks you, always ask the startup, what is your exit plan? Means this is the inorganic growth. You have to have an exit plan. You can go for merger, acquisitions, or IP or something like, based on which you can at least, it is required because now you will focusing on some other areas, but you are now not giving much of interest in this particular business, which is already scaled up, and you have merged with someone. So this exit plan is also required. For this also, some people go for the equity funding for these exit stages. So there are five, I've seen 6 stages. Starts with inception, it goes incubation center. 6th stage also with incubation centers. Then early stage, obviously you can go with the investors. Then growth stage, then expansion stage, and exit stage. So what now I'm speaking on behalf of the investors, not on behalf of the startups, what they basically look for. When they talk to the startup for investments and equity-based fundings, they always look for the feasibility, with how fast feasible their idea is, how scalable their idea is, how unique their idea is, and what are the opportunities related to the ideas. They also look for the futures, whether the startup has a strategic plan in place, like exit plans, scaling plan. What are the use of funds? If I give the fund, then what are the use? They will go for the uses of those funds. That's just very clearly spelled out in their business canvas model. Then what are the value addition they're going to do with this business, and what are the exit strategy? As I said, business. What are their core teams? Very important. What type of people, what qualifications they have identified as per the business requirement. What is the business model? What is the revenue model? What is the pricing and costing? This all comes in the business canvas modeling. And lastly, the rate of interest or return on investments. You can say ROI, return on investments. I suppose if I invest this much money, when I will get the return with specified interest rates. And it has, this again I'm repeating specifically because this has been said and deliberated very clearly in the start of the meeting by CEO Sir Convergence that actually startups should be very much not proficient, but he should be very much understanding the financial matters. So they should know these entrepreneurial finance activities, like they should understand what types of cost, what is called fixed cost, recurring cost, free cost. Without this, they cannot design the business plan, they cannot design their canvas model also, they cannot pitch their ideas to the investors. They should be in a position to understand profit and loss statement. They should be able to read this. They should understand loss and net profit. They should understand what is called cash flows. And ultimately, they should know what is the bond rate. Bond rate means you don't have any funding, you are using your funds, but you should know how much time or duration you will continue with your funds for the particular business. Means your money is draining now, you are not earning anything, so that is called the bond rate. After a particular duration, when you will have a no fund because you don't have any incoming funds, your just funds are outgoing. Now, for the financial investment startup pitching strategies, before that, I will just touch upon, I will touch other things in part 2, some of the schemes related to startups by the government of India. So sources of finance and bank loan processes specifically related to CNV, as specified by the government of India and the MSME.
Can I please? Dr.
Yes,
Gopal,
sir. Yes, sir.
This financial part, can we specifically keep it for tomorrow, and today can we have a little bit of discussion on whatever we have deliberated upon?
Yes, sir. That will do. Tomorrow, but before that, okay, sir. Tomorrow I will discuss this.
No, I am leaving it on you because we have hardly left it 10 minutes, and there should be some question and answers and some interactions to make the webinar more productive. So I thought that if you are comfortable on the second part on finance, all schemes and finance.
Tomorrow I will do it, but before closing, sir, I want to just let audience know what are the reason for failure of startups after doing so much. Please. The reason for failure after so much of due diligence made by the startup or due diligence made by the incubation centers or mentors, why still they fail? The first is that they fail to align in personal goals, family goal, and personal goal, professional goal. Actually, they are basically confuse the whole thing about within this family goal, professional goal, personal goal. So before that, they should be actually differentiate what are my personal goal. Personal means customer goal. What are my family goals? What are my professional goals? If you cannot identify separately, you are always going to go for failure. Don't connect all these three type of goals in one. These all three type of goals are separately. You have all the startups which have seen failed because they have given this time in planning. The planning part is very, very important. Just coming up with the ideas and showing it to someone for ideation and looking for the funds is not the way to start with. You should invest as much as possible on planning. You should do all the nitty-gritties of the enterprise planning process. We start with, as I said, we start with design thinking. That first you should have the problem statement. You should have the clustering of ideas. Then after that, you should go for definition of a persona. Then based on that, you should have the roadmap. You should define the roadmap, how your operation will go, how your product will be reaching your customers, what are the problems they will face while reaching them. After that, you should be in a position to properly plan for business plan preparations, and business canvas modeling. Then comes the pitching, and pitching. Before pitching, also you have to do a lot of activities, as I saw, proof of concept, establishment of your idea with prototyping, and many other things. So that only it needs a lot of planning. So without this, you will not succeed. And mostly the startups are focusing on product, their packaging. So that's also a reason for failure. There is a superficial planning, financial planning they used to do. They used to go by the hypes. It is not good. They should be very realistic. They are listening with closed ears. If they're listening now or listening to someone, but they are listening with closed ears. They are not listening. They are just listening, hearing, not listening. They are hearing. So they have to listen. They have to understand why this is being said so, and they are discussing all the ideas and irrelevant forms of platforms, which is not relevant, which is not going to help them. They are discussing all the ideas everywhere, anywhere. They should actually stick to this idea discussion and specified areas, relevant platforms only. They're seeing that there's imbalance in daring and overconfidence. They are daring, but there's no confidence. So their confidence is there. So they are daring, they are saying overconfidence, but actually that is not the confidence, and that is not actually doing the job the right way. And job to entrepreneurship, they have to change the mindset that they are not going to search for the jobs, but they are going for the entrepreneurship. That concept has to change. It's not like that I will get a job, then I will start entrepreneurship, or first I will start entrepreneurship. If not successful, then I will go for the job. When you are not successful, partnership are doing any partnership for the equity basis without any clarity, without any mindset alike. You're forming a company without concluding the idea. You have made a company in haphazard, but your ideation process has not completed. So after that, again, lots of changes are happening in your style of business, all these things. And you have made a wrong pricing strategy due to which your product is either is undervalued or is overvalued. You are buying or using this. So with this, I'm stopping for the tomorrow. And now, sir, I'm open for. I'm open for the questions.
I leave it to the audience. If they have some questions, may please come out. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Right. Let me introduce myself. I am Archan De from Bihar Industry Association. So I attended on behalf of my entrepreneurs, and it was really a vibrant presentation. Thank you very much. We are really benefited. Now, you mentioned in one of the while presenting in one of the slides, design thinking.
Yes,
right. So we have a very vague idea of design thinking. I roughly know what it is. Can you elaborate?
Yes. Please. See, design thinking is a concept which is being people are mistaken that this is only for the technical people, it's only for the engineers, for the science. Nothing. Design thinking is applicable to individuals. It can be used for the household activity also. Basically, design thinking is a combination of I think you know the lean tools. TQMs, TPM, Kaizen, Kanban. I know. All these things are now being integrated in design thinking, except one very beautiful concept has been added. It's called empathy. Human centric. Design thinking is for the
TPM is total product management, and
yes,
TQM is total quality management.
Quality management. Total
Right.
Product management, quality. These are all basically of 20s. Now these are not much with the other industries, except for some huge automobile industry they are still using. But design thinking is a very good platform consisting of 5 pillars. It consists of 5 pillars where any problem statement. Here, problem statement is called as pain points.
Pain point, right.
Pain points means on empathy, means human-centered pain points. If I identify minimum 9 pain points,
correct,
and start with that, then I can ideate what are the probable solutions.
Correct.
Because the pain points can be lessened. I'm not saying eliminated, can be lessened.
Correct.
Here, based on that, these are all the steps. These are not the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. It can go anywhere, like 2, 2, 1, 5, or you can say 4, 1, 2, 3, something like that. But you have to touch base all these 5 points to reach to a solution which is viable, means minimal viable product, which generates to minimal viable product, which can be commercialized and can be used for lessening these pain points. Maybe a service, maybe a product, maybe anything. So that is concept of design thinking. This is part and parcel of the incubation activities happening in all incubation centers. Now,
it is a kind of creative solution to the problems, or
it is basically a scientific approach to problem solving.
Scientific approach to problems,
which can be used by any streams, not for the. You don't need any scientists to do this. We need anyone who has the.
I think in future we will have a specific program on design thinking. We will have a specific program on design thinking. The other point which I just wanted to say about the means of financing, in Northeast particularly, what I have seen is that our entrepreneurs or our startups are very keen on sourcing government grants. Now, you see, banks are not coming forward to give loans to startups. VCs are also not there much. So tomorrow, I hope, Pranjal, you will be able to work out some ways where our entrepreneurs can really look for funds. And with, as you have correctly said, with matured ideas, not that I have got this, I need 10 lakhs or I need a crore like that. I have seen a lot of immature ideas coming up like that. So I leave it to you to present tomorrow, and I leave to the participants also to think that tomorrow will be more important for us, because we are trying to take the finance issue, which is the most important issue for startups. I mean, one of the most important issues, because you cannot proceed without funds. So this is from my side. Anyone else, if they want to say something, please, you are welcome.
Yes, sir. Tomorrow I will take specifically the finance part, but one note of caution here for all the participants. These are the schemes, but these are the schemes as Communist has rightly said. This idea should have proof of concept. Without this, state government also is not going to fund anyone. These are all the schemes. We can show you how to apply. I will show you what are the documents required. I will show you. But these are the basic documents. But basic documents also needs, while presenting your ideas. Don't think that governments are not like angel investors. Now they are also behaving like angel investors. They are looking to your future of a business, your proof of concept, your stability of your ideas, how you your aptitude. Are you really passionate to carry on, or just you are carrying because you don't have any job now? So that way also it gets rejected, because for one code of notion is also there. Now they are using one system called NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, to assess the aptitude of the applicants, which you don't know. Applicant doesn't know, but banks knows, or any investors knows after going to 30 minutes test they do with this while talking itself with the applicants through this NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, is a AI enabled, artificial intelligence enabled software, which is embedded in the speakers and the microphones. Based on that, it gives a very realistic results to the banks or investors, that this person is whether it is fit for funding or not fit for funding. Based on that, they will get the decision and they will just tell you, sorry, sir, we cannot fund you because we have some fund concerns. So be very careful while going to the funds. It is something like applying to a housing loan, applying for a car loan. So lots of nitty-gritties are there. So many things you have to show up. At this time, you have to be here, nothing to show up, only you have to show that you are mature enough to understand your own business, you know how to run it, and towards pitching activity which I'll show tomorrow. It is a very good format which I will show you, and I will also circulate to Guwahati University Lab, which you can fill it now. Then at least you can see your 80% work for applying loan is complete. And the rest 20% is your personal attributes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think my colleague Pranjal, I think we have reached the end of the time slot. Will you offer
Yes,
both of them?
Yeah, so we have come to the end of today's session. So we'll be having the second session tomorrow. It was a very beautiful session with the interactive interaction as well as questions being asked by the participants. So indeed, it was a pleasure having Pranjal Kupan with us. So we welcome sir again tomorrow at the same time, and also I welcome all the participants, and I request all the participants to be there for the second session tomorrow as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.